The Jeweled Arrow, Chapter 1. In the city of Vardhamana in India, there lived a powerful king named Vira-Bhuja, who, as was the custom in his native land, had many wives, each of whom had several sons. Of all his wives, the king loved one named Guna-Vara, and of all his sons, her youngest born, called Sringa-Bhuja, was his favorite. Guna-Vara was not only very beautiful, but very kind-hearted too. She was so patient that nothing could make her angry, so unselfish that she always thought of others before herself, and so wise that she was able to understand how others were feeling, however different their natures were from her own. Sringa-Bhuja, the son of Guna-Vara, resembled his mother in her beauty and her unselfishness. He was also very strong and very clever. While his brothers were quite unlike him, they wanted to have everything their own way, and they were very jealous indeed of their father's love for him. They were always trying to do him harm, and though they often quarreled amongst themselves, they would come together to try to hurt him. It was very much the same with the king's wives. They hated Guna-Vara because their husband loved her more than them. They constantly go to him with stories they had made up of the wicked things she had done. Amongst other things, they told the king that Guna-Vara did not really love him but cared more for someone else. The most bitter of all against her was the wife called Yasholekha, who was cunning enough to know what sort of tale the king was likely to believe. The very fact that Vira-Bhuja loved Guna-Vara so deeply made him more ready to think that perhaps, after all, she did not return his affection, and he longed to find out the truth. So he made up a story, thinking by its means to find out what she felt for him. He therefore went one day to her private apartments, and having sent all her attendants away, he told her he had very bad news for her, which he had heard from his chief astrologer. Astrologers, are wise men who are supposed to be able to read the secrets of the stars and learn from them things which are hidden from ordinary human beings. Guna-Vara therefore did not doubt that what her husband was about to tell her was true, and she listened eagerly, her heart beating very fast in her fear that some trouble was coming to those she loved. Great indeed was her sorrow and surprise when Vira-Bhuja went on to say that the astrologer had told him that a terrible misfortune threatened him and his kingdom, and the only way to prevent it was to shut Guna-Vara up in a prison for the rest of her life. The poor queen could hardly believe what she is hearing. She knew she had done no wrong, and could not understand how putting her in a prison could help anybody. She was quite sure that her husband loved her, and no words could have expressed her pain at the thought of being sent away from him and her dear son. Yet she made no resistance, not even asking Vira-Bhuja to let her see Sringa-Bhuja again. She just bowed her beautiful head and said, "Be it unto me as my Lord wills. If he wishes my death, I am ready to lay down my life." This submission made the king feel even more unhappy than before. He longed to take his wife in his arms and tell her he would never let her go, and perhaps if she had looked at him then, he would have seen all her love for him in her eyes. But she remained perfectly still, with bowed head, waiting to hear what her fate was to be. Then the thought entered Vira-Bhuja's mind. She is afraid to look at me. What Ashlokha said was true.